Good evening, everyone, and we are here for another Facebook Live with you all. And as announced earlier, today also we are doing it with another seasoned professional in his own field, that the field of recruitment and recruiting at middle to senior to higher level of executives in various organizations. To quickly introduce myself, I'm Vikram Duggal, and I am a career acceleration coach, and I run my online program, which is titled as Career Acceleration. And I keep on sharing lots of inputs on how to grow in your careers. And let me straight away bring to you Mr. Achyut Menon. He is into executive search for the last 30 plus years. And he has a very interesting profile. Let me quickly share with you what he does. In fact, he came into the industry of recruitment much before than anyone would have come into this industry, and much before technology had come in. And in those times, how they must have been exchanging communication with each other, what kind of telephones they were using. We'll get to know from him as he comes in. And just to mention about his academic background, I was very fascinated when I came to know he is a physics student. He started with science physics student, then went on to study marketing in University of Bombay. He is one of the if you know about BNI, Business Network International, he's one of the early members of BNI in Hyderabad. Then he's also part of a network of recruiters across the world. He was just mentioning to me as to he has partnered in 60 plus countries, and they keep on exchanging notes with each other over a period of time. And I have known him for the last 7 years, and every time I get to speak to him, I do get some words of wisdom from him always. And what I like about him is that he does not give a straight answer. Now understand this, what he does not give a straight answer. He'll keep on asking questions as to what exactly is your expectation from this conversation? What are you looking for? And even when we were setting up this Facebook Live, he was asking me constantly, what is the ultimate message that you would like me to deliver? And he is able to fine tune his conversation around that. So that is what is very fascinating about him. So without much ado, let's bring him. Yes, he is with us right now. Welcome, Achyut. It is so amazing to have you. In fact, I've been making that attempt to reach out to you for the last, I think, couple of months. As busy as you are, you're finally able to give time. So thanks for that.
Hey, Vikram, thanks. You make me sound some kind of a super busy guy. Thank you for your kind introduction. It's splendid. Okay, feels good that coming from a fellow professional, and it's wonderful. To me, the pleasure is equally mine, because, like I told you, like you told them that I've known you for 7 years. I've seen you transform from a banker, okay, to a trainer banker, and now a very social media savvy career coach. Okay, so
right,
wonderful.
Right. So before I start my questions from my end, what will be the structure of this conversation is I have some couple of questions ready to shoot to you, and you reply, you share your stories, you share your anecdotes around those questions. And to maybe it will also happen that there will be questions within questions that will come up spontaneously. And towards the end, we'll open it up for the audience to there is a message which has come. Just let me see. Someone is saying that they're not able to see. So someone has just sent me a message that they are not able to see us live.
Oh, so it shows live for 4.49 seconds. Okay. 649.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. It is showing here that we are live, and there are people who are watching us also. That is also.
Can you ask somebody to comment on it? So is it only for
So
one person or?
those who are watching us, can you just comment here to confirm that we are audible to you, we are visible to you? Can you just mention that? Anyone who is watching us right now? Anyway, let's continue the conversation. We'll see how it goes.
Sure.
So then towards the end, we'll have some questions from the audience, and we'll see how we are able to respond to those questions. The first question that comes to me, as I was just mentioning in the intro also, that you came into the space of hiring quite early on, I would say. In fact, at that time, I did not know anything about this executive search and recruitment, but you stepped into this space at that time. From being a student of science and then student of marketing, how did this recruitment become a part of your life?
It's a very interesting question. I wish I knew the answer. No, but the fact is, see, what you should understand is when you this is we grew up in a much different environment altogether. Okay, in 2020 the world is totally different. Okay,
Right.
so when you flash back 30, 40 years back, okay, India itself was a different country, okay, and the kind of opportunities are different. And like any other middle class family, when we graduated, when we finished schooling, the idea was you either had to be an engineer or a medicine doctor.
Right.
So I'm one of those people who kind of, despite trying, never made it to either an engineering college or a medical college. so the next best was to do a science. I mean, I like the logical way that science does train you to be for your thinking.
Right.
But even back in 80s, okay, there was no great future for a scientist or stuff like that. So the next best thing was to do an MBA. Okay, and it took me and like an MBA at that point of time, 1982, 84, I finished my MBA from Bombay, and Hindustan Lever was a dream company of mine, okay? And I would love to. Though I couldn't make it to the campus interview, I recall following their chairman at that time, okay? And he had talked about rural marketing being the future of India, okay? Because back in 80s itself, India had about 60% of economy dependent on rural, and so he had kind of said, if rural marketing is the future, and so my only dream was to get into Hindustan Lever in '84, and so I went into the industry to master rural marketing. So it took me 8 years in the industry. I probably sold fertilizers, pesticides in the south of India. I had a fairly productive and successful corporate career at that time as a youngest regional sales manager for Usha. But frankly, is something which kind of kept disturbing me because it was not something I wanted to do. Okay, because of course, I did get into levers in '92, and then I realized that by then, if I had to do in rural marketing, I had to spend more time in the rural areas rather than in the urban areas. And personally, as a person, I thought I loved talking in English. I loved reading. I loved sharing, and so I was drawn to something that was what excited me. And I'm still talking about 92, 94. And at that time, I thought I was a fairly good guy in the sense from a leading MBA college, had a good corporate career, but I couldn't get out to a dream job of mine. Because back then, you kind of got stamped that if you are a sales guy and selling fertilizers, you can do only that all your life. Okay. And that's when it struck me as a regional sales manager that it is not, you could actually have different kinds of people. Okay? The temperament required for selling fertilizers were different to selling pharmaceuticals, to selling automotive. Now it's very obvious, but I'm talking about 92 part of it. So, so basically I started agency back then in 92 to help other people find their calling. Okay, because it took me an MBA in 8 years to realize that I was the wrong career. Okay? And so I thought the next best thing was to help other people find their calling. And so at that point of time, there were hardly ABC consultants were there, and this was before internet, before Naukri, and in fact, looking back, 92 liberalization happened. Okay, and only then the multinational companies started coming in, and job hopping and all became a fad only after that. Till then, it was all about lifetime employment, and you kind of waited for a promotion once in 3 years and stuff like that. So I guess I didn't reckon for what it was. I was just following my passion, and I started. I got into hiring, thinking that I can touch more people's lives. Okay. In hindsight, the timing was very good. Okay.
So when you are saying that you are helping people to find their calling, I got fascinated by this phrase that you have used, because in my work also, career acceleration, I don't talk only about progressing in their current careers. What I say to people is that they need to figure out what is the nature of work they would like to do and then excel in that. So perhaps you were able to realize it much earlier than these things became so popular and obvious, and you started helping people.
Yeah, because like I told you, I was successful in the corporate career. It's not that I was not capable.
Obviously, yeah.
But the point was, somewhere it was not something I loved doing. Okay? I personally feel each one of us is a different personality. Okay, we have our own likes, dislikes.
Right.
And so, I remember putting up a poster on my table when I started in 92. Okay, and that was find something you love doing, and get somebody to pay you for doing it. Okay?
Right, absolutely.
So that was the kind of basic motto with which I started, and I personally still feel that if you do something, if you like something, you'll do it a lot.
Right.
If you do it a lot, you get better at it.
Right.
If you get better at it, you get recognized. Right. And that will spur you to do better. Okay.
Right.
So it's a self-fulfilling thing. So I still feel that unfortunately, when we grew up, we were told that there are stereotypes of success. Okay, that you had to be an engineer, you had to be a doctor, you had to be something. And whereas I personally feel it's all about inside out. You don't need to be bothered about the industry or economy or something. If you become the perfect version of yours, if you become the best version of yours, I think there's enough of opportunity, and more so in today's economy or whatever. It's very obvious. So in hindsight, I was just following my gut, and I'm glad I did that.
Which means that everyone must listen to their intuition, listen to their gut feeling, and then carve out a path for themselves. And as you said, that there are enough opportunities, and more so in this kind of diverse economy that we have, that people can find their calling, the nature of work, and then find someone to pay for it, as you summed it up. And then that phrase was very good. Find what you like to do it more often, you get better at it and get recognized, and then you are always in an upward spiral kind of thing. You're constantly learning and growing. Great. So that was a great. And I also remember from understanding you in the last couple of years that you also got into understanding LinkedIn very well right in the early days. So how did you get connected with LinkedIn, and how did you leverage that? Can you tell that story a little bit?
Okay, fine. So let me again go back, back to 90 to 94. Okay. So see, like I told you, I got into recruitment at that point of time. It was not by design. It was default. I was just following my heart. And looking back, it was a fantastic timing, because, like I told you earlier, India liberalized and foreign companies started coming in. And fortunately, in Hyderabad, Hyderabad then was a back of beyond kind of a city. But fortunately, 1994, Chandrababu Naidu happened, and he started attracting investments. 95, Microsoft came to India. Okay, and I was extremely lucky to hire the first person for Microsoft Hyderabad. And so it also happened that whether I had just been drawn into the whole system, and in a way, I was a little out of place, an outsider, because typically, if you look at back then, most of the HR managers or recruitment guys were HR people, and I had come through a sales background. Okay,
Right,
and
right, right.
to me, it was I was selling candidates to companies and selling companies to candidates. So
Right.
I still see it as a sales job. Okay,
Uh-huh.
but the industry belonged to HR, okay? And they were the kind of gatekeepers, and everything a decision by then. So I was an outsider, and typically in that particular hierarchy, also you had to be from a premier institute, either from XLRI or Tata Institute, and then you got known. I'm talking about pre-internet days. Okay, there were you belong to certain vibrations kind of a thing.
Right.
So I've been that way since I was an outsider. I was very happy when internet came in, and I was an early adapter for it. When it was Alta Vista and stuff like that. I mean, talking before Google had come.
Right.
Okay. And of course, Naukri started in 94, 95. So I think sometime in fact, I was an early adapter for technology also, because I wanted something to do it easier. And believe me, there was a product called X1, which came before Google. Okay, and that X1 could search data from a computer system, and I was so delighted because it was easy to read. Now, of course, everybody takes Google for granted. You know?
Right.
Everything you kind of depend on Google. So I think Google had a product called Blogger.com, Blogspot. Okay, that was the first. That was my first introduction to social media, because back then I don't know whether you heard of the gentleman called Gautam Ghosh. Okay, he's a popular blogger in India. Okay, and he used to be blogging, and since it's my passion to read a lot. Okay, and by then the knowledge came out of books and magazines and libraries into the internet. Okay, so 2002, 3, 4, all the thought leaders were on the internet, and so ended up. So social media became my window to my learning world. So it so happened that, in fact, before LinkedIn, there was another thing called Orkut, MySpace.
Right, was there, right.
So these were all the things we dabbled, but we never knew that this would become big. But fortunately, LinkedIn and immediately later on, Facebook and Twitter, these have come on and actually changed the landscape of way how people behave, network, engage. And so now it seems like a default thing that you have to network. There's no two ways about it. And we have organizations like BNI which kind of help you learn networking. Okay. So, but when I started, it was all default. कोई design नहीं था.
Right.
So I
anyone
guess,
and everyone and whosoever wants to connect, and you connect with that person. Right.
And believe me, I'm only too glad that I'm part of that generation, which had the benefit of working before this kind of technology came into our lives at the way it did. And they've enabled us for a fantastic lifestyle. Okay, helping us. The fact that you and I are sitting at home and talking at their probably, and with somebody else sitting at their home and listening. It's something unbelievable when we began our careers.
Right. True.
So LinkedIn actually came in handy to me because it was a first professional network, and as a recruiter, I suddenly had access to a lot of people and their access online. Okay. Otherwise, you needed to be hunting for people in organizations or in conferences or in the job portals, kind of a thing. And I'll just take you a slide effect just to kind of give you the business of recruiting. Because as a recruiter, one is often in the business of finding the talent which clients can't find themselves. And so you're paid only for finding people they can't access. Okay? So technically, till early 90s when I began, it was a print medium which was popular. You had the newspapers which had in weekly they had 2 days of supplements which had jobs,
Right,
which kind of, so it went off, and then you had the portals coming in, the job Monster, Naukri, and Career Dice and stuff like that.
Right.
So soon those databases became the kind of source for profiles, but this was accessible to anybody who was willing to pay for that. So as a third party recruiter, I had really had to depend on my own relationships if I had to have a unique database. Okay? So fortunately, LinkedIn was the first professional network which brought people online, but then there was still a level of what do you call distancing, because while you knew Vikram Duggal and he was organization, there was no contact number or there was no email ID. So there was still some kind of a barrier between being online and be found. And as a recruiter, I always feel that there's a passive job seeker and an active job seeker. The active job seekers are available all over, okay? And they are advertising and they are responding to ads, going to job fairs, etc. But the passive people are often the better performers. They are probably doing well, and those are the kind of people that any corporate will pay a premium to get to.
Right.
Okay. Right. So to me, it was a godsend that I was an early adapter for social media. I came into LinkedIn, and here I could get access to a bunch of professionals who are performing well, and I could easily entice them and go and join my client.
Okay.
So again, it was it's one of those things, serendipity, if you can say. Things happen that way.
Right. So coming from your experience of hiring, so if you had to give an overall experience of yours, how has been your experience in hiring leaders over the years? What has changed in the industry, and what has been your experience?
Yeah, it's been wonderful, because like I told you that I was fortunate enough to get in at a time when this transition was happening. If you look back, traditionally before liberalization, it was large Indian business houses, and they grew at a particular rate, and they already had their systems in place, and they didn't really need to hire leaders from outside. They all had internal leaders. So, like liberalization happened, so you had a whole lot of foreign companies coming to India in the late 90s. Then post 2000, when Indian IT became world famous, this offshoring started, and more multinational companies came to India, as a cost arbitrage kind of a thing. B, also as a great market with some 300 million middle class and all that. So when these kind of companies were coming in, they needed to hire the best of talent from in India. Okay, and so I was very fortunate that depending on the industry and the life cycle of growth of these organizations, each one needed different kind of people to come and join the middle management or senior management kind of a thing. So every 2-3 years, the market always changed. Okay, in terms of and if you notice, even now look back, last 20 years, the whole world has seen so much of disruption of business models because of the globalization, technology, etc. So the mortality rates of companies have also gone down. Okay, so the need for hiring leaders has become more critical every year. And so for an outsider like me, for a third party person like me, I think everything is panned out the way it should. Okay? So today it's a global world. I mean, pandemic has shown us it doesn't matter whether in Hyderabad or Rayalaseema or anywhere in India or anywhere in the world. Okay, now opportunities are same for everybody.
Right.
So so now every company has to become global or think global to hire and attract the best kind of talent.
Right.
And if you were to look at the macro level, now finance is available for everybody. Technology is available for everybody.
Right. Right.
What differentiates between the good company and the best company is the quality of human capital. Okay, and
True.
so I'm glad leadership hiring is the key
Right.
to leveraging on the talent. Okay?
Right. Agree.
So
Fully agree with that.
so yeah, so it's changed. So it's been a great journey, and I'm sure even now, pandemic has shown that the world has to reinvent itself. Okay, and then we don't know what's going to happen. So I guess the needs of leaders keep changing, and so hiring also becomes
Right.
equally complex.
Right.
I mean, did I answer your query? Okay, in terms of
Right. So, when it comes to hiring leaders, what is it that you look for in leadership? Because you do the preliminary kind of assessment as to whether this person will fit for this XYZ role or not. So, what are some of the things that you look for when you are hiring leaders?
so again, let me tell you that as a third party recruiter, okay, I'm only an influencer. I'm not a decision maker.
Right. Agreed.
I'm hiring for companies, and most of the companies have specific mandates as to who they want.
Right.
So I try and understand the business, the culture of the organization, and like I told you about what is the kind of life cycle of stage of growth of the organization, and then try and find people who could be the best fit for them. Now, my job, my mandate is to give them 4 or 5 people. I mean, my firm is called Options. Okay, we give 4 or 5 candidates for every possible position for the organization.
Right.
So my job is to give them 4 or 5 good people, and it's the onus on the company to decide which one of them is most relevant for their requirements or not. Okay. So I'm not a decision maker. I'm just an influencer. But in terms of if I were to look at the top skills, if I were to look at leadership, because the industry knowledge and skills, the client will be a better person to decide. Okay?
Right.
So I, as an outsider, would look at 3 points, which I kind of fascinated by Warren Buffett's hiring. This one, he says you look at 3 things: one is intelligence, okay. Second is energy, and third is integrity.
Okay.
And his point was, if integrity was not there, then the first two doesn't matter.
Right. True.
So basically, what I'm trying to do is look at these 3 parameters. So fortunately, with internet and LinkedIn and social media, it's easy now to do research about anybody in the world you want.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And typically, and thanks to our personal branding, everybody is good at everything. So it's very difficult to accept anything on a face value. So if I were to, yes, I have my judgment on how good Vikram Dugal is, but I will be much more impressed by you if a Nivedita or Hari Mohan or somebody else told me aspects of their interaction with you.
Right.
All that adds. Okay. So moment they tell me perspectives because they have worked with you or they've interacted with you personally or professionally, these all add to my understanding of your personality. Okay, so I kind of leverage. So my way of identifying leaders is because leader is not about himself. He can impact several lives of the people.
Absolutely.
So it's all about what his peers, what his subordinates, and what his colleagues experience, which I try to assess before I am able to validate my thoughts. So I'm thankful that we have social media and networking, which help us put these piece of puzzle together.
Right. So what you are essentially saying that rather than a person saying that I am such and such, I am so good in this and this, you look for third party endorsements as to how the world looks at that person. And if you collate all that information, that's when it becomes a kind of more trustworthy information about a particular person.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And three things that you said, what you look for is one was intelligence, second was
Energy.
energy, and third is integrity.
Integrity.
And all these things need to be coexisting. So the message for the audience is that continue to demonstrate your intelligence, continue to show your energy in the work that you do, and at the same time, whatever actions that you take, they must be full of integrity so that people can trust you, people can vouch for you, and you can be looked at as a role model.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, another thing that I am coming to is that also relates to the nature of my work is that I have found in my experience of my life that people reach up to a certain point and then they start getting stuck. Some people get stuck at middle level, some reach a lower senior level, but they are somewhere there, but still not there. So, what is it that they are not able to demonstrate and which keeps them stuck or which does not allow them to rise?
Question. I mean, if you were to look at the traditional organization, okay, most organizations were pyramidal in our structure.
Right.
So if you had 10 managers, you would have only 3 or 4 general managers, and you would have only 1 or 2 vice presidents or whatever.
Right.
So beyond one stage, it is not just about doing stuff yourself. It's about getting things done by other people and through other people. So what happened? I think the difference between the leaders and the others. I mean, there are managers. Okay. I mean, historically, an organization prepares you by experience to become managers for your team. Okay.
Right.
But the manager actually does things right. Okay. Whereas a leader does the right things.
Right.
Simple in terms of the thing, right things and things right. But that's where the difference between a great leader and a mediocre manager.
Okay. True.
So one of the things is to be able to influence other people without authority.
Okay.
And that is what differentiates a leader from a manager.
Influencing without authority.
Exactly.
That becomes a key phrase here.
That is very, very critical because, and more so in today's organization, while you have a pyramidal organization still now, but since the workforce is distributed, it's quite likely that your immediate superior is another country whom you never meet or may not meet.
Right.
Okay. So now you have to influence without authority, without a thing. And so how do you do that? Those are the. So it's people think that if you work hard, you get lucky. Yes, you do get lucky. But it's not about just working hard. It needs to be being better than your peer people. It needs to be you're being upskilled and being able to add value to your immediate manager and stuff like that. So those are skills which we still are not taught. We are only, right from our school, we are only told 98% milna, 99% milna. Okay.
Right.
And you think that if you got 99%, you are 100%, you are ultimate. There's nothing like 100% in real life. Nothing like 100%.
Absolutely.
It's only a starting point. You still have to, because now the world is a flat world and you need to be interactive. So the key issue is influencing other people without authority. And there, the only way you can impact is either by your knowledge or your skills, and your constant upskilling or reskilling or unlearning. Because there's another book I remember, what got you here will not
get you there. Right.
So these are the things. Very subtle things, but I guess it's very I don't know. So especially now with organizations being flat and diverse distribution thing, you probably have to report to somebody in some other country who's younger. Okay, and so leadership skills have to be displayed in every action that you do. Okay,
Right.
and
Right.
again, it's not about what you do, but it's what other people perceive.
Right. Ultimately, your actions have to be perceived by others as right. And you use that phrase beautifully, doing things right versus doing the right things. That is where influencing without authority comes into play. And that is where the focus of development has to be constantly demonstrated so that you can be considered for higher positions. Right. The next question that I'm asking is again, since you use the word learning, so if you have to give a message to people who step into organization, they're very juniors in the organization. So the question relates for their growth. What are some of the areas that they must start focusing early on so that their growth remains upwards all the time, even though it's a pyramid structure, but they keep on going on that incline of growth? What are some of those skills that they can start focusing early on?
Yeah. Okay. It's a tough question, and it's something which I don't agree with you in terms of going up. Okay, the career ladder part of it was relevant in a organizing structure which was in the past, but today with distributed workforce, it could be a career lattice kind of a thing. You don't go up. I think life is more like a chessboard. Okay, where there's nothing linear. Okay, you probably have to, like, you take your horse or bishop. Okay, you have to probably go 2 steps forward, 1 step right. Because what's happening today is
so I'm slightly interjecting here.
Yeah.
When I'm saying going up, I don't necessarily mean in terms of designations.
Right.
I don't necessarily mean in terms of the money they are making. It's more in terms of the sense of fulfillment they get. So now you can, now you can blend your answer there.
Right, perfect. So if you look at it, it's any organization now it's an alliance between an employer and an employee.
Right.
And people are, as long as both are relevant to each other, okay, and they are there, the relationship is there. Moment you think that the person has outgrown the company, he would leave and go. Okay.
Right.
So, and the other way around. So it's all about the value you bring in to any role that you give.
Right.
So my advice to youngsters who are beginning their career is don't worry about the buzzwords in the market or what's hot now, or आजकल काफी you talk about AI and ML and data science. Right. These are seasonal. 3 years back something was there, next 3 years something will come. I would still go back to saying that, okay, believe in your own instincts, do what you love doing best, what you like, and try and invest in yourself in a way that you are the best version of yourself at any point of time.
Right.
And once you do that, you can easily continue to provide value. Be it as a junior executive or a middle executive. And so there is no substitute to learning. Okay, there is no substitute to investing in your own development. And that's how I look at it. So and believe me, I remember, I think it was Accenture who had brought out a report about a couple of years back, with the amount of automation which is happening and offshoring which is happening, etc. It is said that sooner, I mean, they say 2030, I don't know what's the thing, that the only permanent jobs in an organization will be the CXO level people.
Right.
Everything else will be either offshored, outsourced, or done as freelancing.
Right.
So when you look at that kind of a thing, there is your concept of a lifetime career is gone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You then become a a bunch of skills or the value, and it's how you're going to trade these skills and provide value.
Right.
Okay. So earlier in the past, when I began my career, we thought of changing a job once in 3-5 years.
Right.
Now we might even have to change our careers. And it's very evident in your own example.
Right.
Because you are a banker, then you become a trainer and a banker, and now you're a coach. Okay.
Right.
So you have pivoted yourself already 3 times in the last 10 years.
Right. True.
So the message to a youngster is have belief in your own strengths, back your instincts, invest in being the best version of yourself,
right,
and continue to add value.
Right. So when you use this phrase, be the best version of yourself, I understand that you are hinting towards self-learning. So how important is it in today's context? How important is self-learning in today's context, and what are the options available to people where they can learn the right stuff?
Oh, let me put it the other way. If you don't do self-learning, okay, right, you're going to be extinct.
Right.
Okay. And
sooner than you believe.
Absolutely. And right. And it is not that you learn from somebody who's older than you or right, more knowledgeable than you or stuff like that. Today you can learn from any person, anywhere, right, in any situation.
Right.
Okay. And that's the beauty of this flattening of the world due to technology and thing. I mean, I don't know whether you've. There was a Twitter message, Instagram, which went viral about a week back. There's a girl called Ishna Kuti, okay, who did some hula dance. Okay, and she must be probably late teenager or probably early 20s. Okay, and would you believe that there's an interview done by Abhijit Baduri, who's Abhijit is one of the foremost talent advisors in the country. Right. Imagine his stature. Okay, he was a chief learning officer of Wipro and is advising hundreds of companies, and he's talking to a 20-year-old girl and understanding how she has been able to engage people in this world in a thing like hoopla dancing. Right. And the kind of insight she gave was something even that organized learning companies, multinational companies, have not been able to transition from the older economy to work from home. They simply thought, Zoom chala lenge to learning is done. But every point of hers which she mentioned, was so mind-boggling, and it hard. So you look at it. So you can learn from anyone. Okay.
So can you do, after this interview gets over, can you post the link to her interview in the comments box? Absolutely. So that everyone who views, they can reach out to that interview and learn something for themselves. That's interesting. It's amazing. I saw part of it, but I would like to have a look at the complete interview and get fascinated by it.
And to think that for a change, the 50+ person was listening to a 20+ person on how the world is changing.
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Agreed.
But that's the only way you can learn. So there is no substitute to learning.
Right. And then you can learn from whether it is 60 years old or whether that person is 20 years old. You just have to look at the message that is coming across and pay attention to that. Right.
Absolutely.
And now the question that I'm asking is job change. You mentioned a couple of times in your deliberation that people are changing jobs every 3 to 5 years, or they are not doing any job at all, but they are doing piecemeal work, something here, something there. So does it happen even at the top levels in the organization that people move from one organization to, I'm a CEO of one organization and 3 years later I'm CEO of another organization? Does that happen quite frequently at that level also?
It does happen. Because what's happening is, if you were to look at, even though 70-80% of large businesses are still family-owned businesses, A whole lot of other businesses today are very, very commercially driven. And there is a whole lot of their ecosystem of venture capitalists and private equity, and there is a huge emphasis on quarter to quarter ratings of the stock market. So the pressure at senior management is unbelievable. It's not you don't. It's not just about you're doing your job or getting the work done in your organization, but if these stakeholders who are invested in your company think that you're not doing as well as their expectation, okay, they would be soon having different interests. So you would see that today, if you look at it, there are a lot more examples of mergers and acquisitions. There are a lot more examples of companies. I mean, there's even a concept called acqui-hiring. Okay, people just hire. People just, for example, I'll give you a good example of how, this gentleman who started WhatsApp. Okay? A guy called Brian Acton. Okay?
Right.
And he had actually applied for a job in Google and I think Microsoft or
Facebook also.
Okay, and they rejected him. Okay, they rejected him because they didn't think he was good enough for being their employee.
Right.
But within 4 years, this guy had built a product like WhatsApp.
Right.
And it had made life miserable for all these people. And Facebook went and acquired him along with his team at a fabulous price.
$19 billion. $19 billion.
Right. So the point was, so now a whole lot of business models have changed. Okay.
Right.
So
right.
So the business models have changed. The mortality rates of companies itself are changing. So the roles of leaders also changing.
Right.
And I was reading somewhere that earlier a lifetime of a company was 35 years. Now it is only 15 years. Okay. In 15 years, either the company takes off or it's gone. Okay.
Right.
So
means the decision point comes in 15 years.
Right. So leaders
either you become.
So leaders will change jobs. Leaders have to change jobs. Leaders have to stay relevant. Okay, they may probably need to change careers also. So change is probably a cliche that is here. Change is probably the only constant now.
Only constant in the world, right? So coming towards the end, we'll open it up for audience. Today we are doing it first time through StreamYard, so we'll see how the comments come up. So what I'm asking is, can you share one or two stories or anecdotes about the best hires or the worst hires or any such experiences from your 30 plus years of being in recruiting industry?
Okay, I will not talk about the worst hire, okay, but I can talk, I can talk about the best hire, and which is very, very significant to me because this goes back to an experience that I had while I was in college. I'm talking about 1984. Okay? And I was still we were in campus interviews. And those days, there was a company called Hext, Hext Pharmaceuticals. And they had come for the campus interview. And even now it rings in my mind. The head of HR was a person called George Menezes. Okay? And he had come for the interview. Typically, in an MBA college, what would happen in a campus interview is when a big brand comes, okay, they have group discussions, and after that they shortlist some people for the final interview, and then somebody is selected. And in these group discussions, because it's the elimination of the equals, 2 years of friendship, okay, in hostels and all that are on thin line because in that group of 10 people, you have to establish you are the best among them. Okay, and so many friendships break on during the placement season. Okay, so most companies used to hire that way. They had to shortlist. But Hext was very interesting. They said there was a pharmaceutical company, and they said, look, we are going to hire only people who understand science. So if somebody has done chemistry or thing, he would be the right kind of fit. And I'm talking about 40 years back when people used to have a lifetime employment.
Right.
So unless they understand science, we don't want to take. And the fact that you are of a premier MBA college, we know that your college has done its best in terms of filtering out. If you are here in the college, you are already good at intelligence and communication skills.
Right.
And I presume by the kind of faculty you have, they have taught you well. So we are not going to interview you on those kind of things. And so the interaction was a 45-minute, 1 hour interview, not with the 50 people, but with 5 or 6 people who were having a science background.
Right.
And in the interview, the questions they asked was, who do you like better, father or mother? Do you believe in God? And stuff like that. And there's nothing to do with general knowledge or
job and anything.
Nothing at all. So then I went up and asked this gentleman, what is this? What are you doing? So then he said, look, we are a company. At that point of time, it was very interesting. 25 years of no loss of labor. I mean, they had no strikes and all that. They had a very good culture. And he said, look, when I'm going to hire you into my company, I already know what role you're going to come. Okay? You are going to be at the same level as Vidushi. You are reporting to Ritu. Okay, and you're working with Vikram. We know Vikram, Vidushi, and Ritu. We can't change them. Right. So if we are going to get a person inside to our company, we want a person who can interact with these people.
Right.
Unless you are able to interact with these people, and you are not going to contribute. So he says only for scientist role we are looking at knowledge. For every other role we are looking at interpersonal skills, ability to understand. And he says most people are driven by their values and beliefs. And so if you hire right, we don't have to motivate them or manage them.
Right. That struggle gets over.
Right, and this was a story he told me in 1984, and now 36 years later, this is, of course I didn't get selected, but I feel the hire they made was simply outstanding.
Right. That's interesting. Right. And even today, the emphasis is coming back a lot on understanding the values and beliefs of people rather than just looking at the intelligence part of it. Because after a certain period of work, let's say 3, 5, 10 years, that intelligence will, as it is, be subdued by the role that you'll start playing in managing teams and interacting with a whole lot of people, right? So now what we will do is we'll open it up to audience to ask any questions. But in this StreamYard feed, I'm not getting any comments as yet.
Okay, there must have been some pitch. Okay, sure.
So anyway, means I'm opening my Facebook page here. Yeah, there are some comments here. We can see you clearly. Achyut, you looks okay. Deepak Sani has complimented you.
Oh, thanks.
Paritosh Saran has written big hello to both of you.
Deepak and I have mutual admiration. Okay, so, so we have a pact.
Right. So I'm looking at my Facebook page on my mobile also and opening it up to audience to ask any question. If they don't come up in the StreamYard here, I'll have a look at here. Otherwise, in another 2-3 minutes, we'll be...
Fair enough. We can. I didn't realize it's already 53 minutes that we have spoken.
Right.
So I think, no, even if they answer later on after looking at the recording, we will come back and address them to the best of our knowledge.
Then coming to the last question that I always ask people, and more so to you because you mentioned that you are very fond of reading. So what kind of books that you generally read? That is one question. And second is, what inspires you?
Boy. No, I kind of read a variety of books. I mean, over years, those things have changed. So right now, it's got to do more with some of the. And more than reading today, I use audio books to.
Right. That is as good as reading only. Yeah.
So it's a variety of mostly management, okay, and also some of these leaders today who are seeing the future of the world.
Right.
Those kind of reading.
Right.
Inspiration comes from everybody. It doesn't need to be any I mean, I'm not very fascinated with any single person. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm more fascinated on different qualities in different people.
Okay. So
So yeah,
if you have to name one or two persons whose thought process has inspired you, who would they be?
for each industry, I've looked at different people. Actually.
Okay, okay,
For
okay.
each industry. So it's like I said, some commercial, some uh, human related, some marketing
Right,
related, and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of many people. Okay, if I were to, I can't singly point out to 2 or 3 names. It's not right. Okay.
right, right. So there is a question that has come, which did not appear in the StreamYard here, but I can see it on my uh,
Facebook.
feed. Yeah. So his name is Ramakrishna. He's saying, how does the B School MBA plays a role to reach top in the leader ladder, particularly for those people who joined the bank in their early age without B School? That's what he's saying.
Okay, you want to take that
I'll
step?
repeat the question.
Yeah,
I'll repeat the
right, right.
question. How does
So
the B School how does the B School MBA plays a role to reach top in the ladder, particularly for those people who joined the bank in their early age without B School degree?
fine. So I'm presuming he's talking about he has experience and
Uh-huh.
doesn't need and whether he should get into a B school right now. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think it will be very much essential. Okay, because
Uh-huh.
I personally feel a B school at beginning of your career. Okay, I mean if somebody had done it after 3 4 years of work experience,
Uh-huh.
it gives them a good exposure for how the uh, businesses work and what is the
Right.
integration between different functions. Okay.
Right.
To me, a business school has only two advantages. Okay,
Right.
one, the campus interviews at the end of it,
Uh-huh.
and more importantly, the lifetime access to the alumni network.
That's true.
So
That's
these
true.
are the two things which are differentiate between one MBA college and the other.
Right.
Otherwise, today there's nothing that Google doesn't know. Okay,
Right.
so okay, and the
True, true
very
that.
fact that today we have online courses,
Uh-huh.
these no, uh, I don't know whether the education that we see today of a full time physical education going to college for 3 4 years will continue too long. Maybe 5 years from now, we'll see a totally different hybrid mixture of online and virtual and
Absolutely.
stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
if for Mr. Ramakrishna, no, I don't think you need to go to a business school. If you have experience, I would rather that you focus on your personal skills, okay,
Right.
which are your, which, what unique skills that you present, and how can you stand out and be the world class as far as those skills are concerned. And I would even say that um, if you pick up, it's very difficult to become world class in one skill. Okay, probably pick up 2 3 skills and try to be so the and when you have 3 skills together and if you're good at each one of them, the likelihood that no, you will be the best will be much higher rather than
True.
and because the competition today is worldwide. So
True.
MBAs are not required right. I mean, I don't
Right,
think
right.
it probably was good 20 years back, not now.
So I'll pick up a phrase from what you had said earlier also. Ultimately, what you bring to the table is what is going to make a difference. Do you continue to add value? Do you continue to contribute? And that is what is going to matter in the long run. And now that Ramakrishna already has experience, so he doesn't need to look at what are the qualifications he's carrying, but he brings to the table. And we have examples across industry that people with not so high flying certifications or degrees, they are still heading those organizations. And it has happened because what they brought to the table.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. We are coming close to 1 hour. So it was very engaging conversation with you. And we rarely get time to talk like this to each other. But today it was a lot of learning for me also.
Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity.
As I mentioned to you, share that link in the comments box about the
I'll do that.
interview.
Yeah.
And Any last words that I leave it to you, and then I'll close.
No, I think I've been doing all the talking, so I have nothing to add.
So, thank you so much. Thank you, Achyut. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Vikram, for the opportunity.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.